A corpse was washed ashore by the waves. Detectives Jude and his colleague Rodrigo discovered it and discussed the cause of death on the shore. Jude accidentally looked up and saw 3 more corpses on the shore. He took Rodrigo there and dragged the people who might still be alive toward the shore. While rescuing the last little girl, Jude found she still had a pulse, so he carried the little girl away from the sea. Jude immediately called Rodrigo and told him to request rescue. Rodrigo immediately radioed the rescue team. However, after putting down the communication device, he stared blankly at the sea and shouted Jude's name loudly. Next, they witnessed the most terrifying scene in their professional careers. As the waves continued to pile up, more and more corpses were pushed toward Jude and Rodrigo by the force of the seawater. Soon, the police rescue team arrived at the scene. Helicopters hovered in the air. Searchlights lit up near the coastline shrouded in night. Nearby fishing boats and various other vessels were also requisitioned for sea rescue. Countless team members carried stretchers and rescue equipment, rushing between the sea and the shore, transporting corpses while carrying people with signs of life onto stretchers, and transferring them to safe areas. Some survivors, after being rescued, kissed the ground gratefully, while others, after waking up, were devastated and lay on the bodies of their deceased relatives, crying. This rescue operation lasted until late at night. It consumed a great deal of manpower and material resources. Busy until dawn, they finally salvaged all the corpses floating on the sea surface and brought them ashore. After handling the last corpse, following precise calculations by the police, they concluded that there were over 400 corpses and 47 survivors. Jude couldn't figure out what disaster had caused so many deaths. On the other side, his assistant Rodrigo seemed to have found something. He told Jude that none of the over 400 corpses were wearing life jackets. Not even the most basic survival equipment was present. After an investigation by the police, no damaged ships or other vehicles were found on the sea. After the police contacted the authorities and expanded the sea search scope, they announced that no crashed planes or ships had been found. So where exactly did all these victims come from? In order to find out the truth of the tragedy, Jude went to the tent where survivors were being sheltered. Inside, he saw the little girl he had rescued first. Jude stepped forward to question the little girl. He asked if she remembered any accident that had happened before she fell into the water, whether there were any other survivors besides them, and if she could provide any clues to assist with the investigation. Wrapped in warm clothes, the little girl recalled her experience before falling into the water. She told Jude that she had come here with her mother, but she couldn't remember the specific details clearly. She only remembered that her mother had pushed her onto the shore, but after she woke up, she never saw her mother again, and her mother's body wasn't among the corpses either. To uncover the truth, Jude continued to ask where they had come from. The girl's answer was beyond all of Jude's assumptions. He had originally thought the incident was caused by a vacation cruise ship accident. Unexpectedly, these people had come here to escape a war. The war was happening here, on the land he was standing on. This statement confused Jude. There could be no war in the city where he lived. Just as he was about to ask more questions, a survivor behind him told him they had indeed come here to escape the war. But at this point in time, the tragic war hadn't yet come to this place. The information provided by the two people left Jude unable to process it. In the end, he believed that these survivors had suffered from mental trauma, which led to unrealistic fantasies. The next day, the police sent a large number of investigators to conduct investigations and interviews with the survivors. Through registration and investigation, they discovered a very serious problem. During the interview process, the female detective and her assistant discovered that no matter who they were, their date of birth was 150 years after the current time. This time paradox made the detectives present unable to believe it. The survivors also told them that in the future, there was an organization named Apex. Its members seemed to have undergone genetic modification and were stronger than ordinary adults, and the organization behind them, in order to promote an evolution policy and accelerate the pace of human evolution, actually targeted ordinary people. Ordinary people without evolutionary genes were massacred. And the reason Apex dared to do this was its own strong capabilities. As for its purpose, it was to keep humans with evolutionary abilities, to provide better genes for the subsequent reproduction of humanity. And now, these survivors, including the over 400 corpses, were trying to escape the killings by Apex. So at the critical moment in the future, they took a time machine and fled to the present to seek refuge. However, there was something wrong with their machine. On the way, it actually miscalculated the location and dropped their target into the sea. Most of them drowned in the sea. Although the police officers didn't believe the absurd words, the consistent story from all the survivors forced them to take this information seriously. After registering all the information they had obtained, the police officers left quickly to report to their superiors. The little girl who was rescued first was different from the others. She left the camp alone and stood desolately by the shore, wondering where her mother could be. Meanwhile, the woman the little girl was thinking about woke up on a fishing boat. She had been rescued by the fishing boat that was working at sea, but after waking up, the woman remained extremely vigilant. She remembered that in order to keep her daughter alive, she pushed her out of the sea when the time machine fell into the sea, and the reciprocal force pushed her into the deeper part of the seabed. Fortunately, she was rescued by kind fishermen on a fishing boat. Later, she followed the fishermen to shore. They invited the woman to have a meal at a restaurant. It was also in this restaurant that the woman saw a news report on TV about over 400 corpses appearing on the shore. The police spokesperson was Jude, the officer who first discovered the corpses. As she watched the news, the woman's expression was unreadable. On the other side, Jude, who had finished handling the formalities, got in a police car and prepared to go to the shore to investigate evidence. Before he could start the car, he noticed something was wrong. Immediately after, the woman rescued by the fisherman pressed the muzzle of a gun against the back of Jude's head. The woman told Jude to take her to the shore to see the discovered corpses. Under the threat of the gun, Jude took the woman to the factory building, where the corpses were stored. But at this moment, he couldn't take her inside, because this place, as the scene of a major case, had already been taken over by the security bureau. Anyone who wanted to enter had to go through strict inspection. But the woman seemed very capable. After just a brief observation of the surrounding terrain, she formulated a thorough intrusion plan. First, the woman threatened Jude and made him destroy the power switch in order to draw out the policemen and make them come out to check the circuit. Then, the woman took advantage of the gap and entered the hall where the corpses were stored. Looking at the corpses sealed in plastic bags, the woman looked very flustered. She feared that she would find her daughter's body here. Jude noticed that the woman was specifically checking the corpses of children, and he wondered what exactly she was looking for. After searching through the corpses and not finding her daughter, she held the gun and asked Jude, "Are these all the people here?" The woman's question confused Jude. After all, she had only asked to see the corpses, and had never mentioned wanting to see the survivors. When she heard Jude's reply, the tension in the woman's heart eased a little, but before she could say anything, the lights suddenly turned on. Jude also took advantage of the moment the woman was stunned to take back the gun and restrain her. The three men thought they had the upper hand, but they didn't expect the woman to be even more agile. First, she knocked the gun out of Jude's hand and sent him staggering. She first knocked out Jude and the gun in his hand, then kicked over another police officer and overthrew the last one. Then she turned around and ran faster and faster. With a sudden burst of speed, she jumped out of the room. This series of superhuman actions left Jude in disbelief. The police who received the report watched the surveillance video repeatedly. Faced with the woman's superhuman physical fitness, the female police officer was shocked. She didn't know why someone could possess such superhuman strength and speed. What shocked her even more was yet to come. Jude told the female police officer that this was just a small matter. Even the steel cable he used to lock his shotgun had been broken by the woman with her bare hands. Such terrifying strength was beyond what a human being could possess. The female police officer contacted her superiors and reported the news she had gotten from Jude. At the same time, she also uncovered another crucial piece of information. One of the survivors told her that this group wasn't the only batch of future people who had traveled back in time. He told the police that before this group of time travelers, someone had already successfully returned to the present. On the other side, the escaped woman stood by the shore, thinking about her daughter. Just then, a man appeared behind her, holding a gun and threatening to take all the money she had. It was clear that he had picked the wrong person. When he appeared again, his face was covered in blood after being beaten by the woman. To evade the police's pursuit, the woman found a hideout and discovered a book about automobiles inside. In just a quarter of an hour of reading, she had mastered all the assembly skills in the book and assembled a car by herself. With this car, the woman packed her weapons and drove out the next day to find her daughter. She hadn't driven far when she found herself being watched by a police car. The police inside are subordinates of Officer Jude. It turned out that not long ago, Jude had received a report from a junior officer about the woman and the car she was driving. After confirming the vehicle's information, Jude ordered his subordinate to drive and follow her immediately. After filing the report and receiving the order, the young policeman decided to follow the woman's car. But just as he got out of the car to inspect, the woman sensed the approaching danger and took out a steel knife from her bag. However, not knowing the laws of this era, she didn't act recklessly. Instead, she turned the car around to try to shake off the policeman. Seeing the car start, the policeman didn't hesitate and drove the police car to chase after her. The two chased each other all the way to the outskirts of the city. The policeman found the car the woman had abandoned. After confirming it was empty, he was shocked by this result. He looked around and found that the woman had disappeared from the area enclosed by the high wall nearby. The woman who had disappeared from the policeman's sight took the initiative to go to the police station at this moment. Looking at the woman, Jude had no idea what her purpose was in coming here. Faced with Jude's questioning, the woman stated her purpose for coming: finding her daughter. The identity of a mother eager to find her daughter moved Jude. He took the woman to a shipyard near the city, but he lied to her, saying that all the survivors from the shore had been transferred to the shipyard by the security bureau. After that, he took the woman into the factory. Jude's persuasion diverted the woman's attention, leading her into a secret room. After the woman walked into the room without any caution, Jude closed the door behind him, trying to trap the woman inside. Realizing she had been tricked, the woman fired a gun at Jude, but no matter how strong she was, she couldn't break through the several-meter-thick door panel. After closing the door, Jude let out a sigh of relief and called the police. He found the female detective and wanted to cooperate with her to solve this time travel case. This also had his own selfish motives, whether for a promotion or other purposes. He didn't want the case that occurred in the town under his jurisdiction to become a stepping stone for higher-ranking leaders. The female detective immediately drove to the shipyard, but 2 helicopters belonging to the National Security Bureau arrived before the female detective. It turned out that the female detective's phone had been monitored by the Security Bureau. Before the female detective could arrive, the Security Bureau personnel had already reached the shipyard first. By the time Jude saw the helicopters, it was too late to react. Countless smoke grenades poured into the room, and Jude, affected by the smoke, lost consciousness. The Security Bureau agents, who were unaware of how dangerous the woman was, actually unlocked the door that was restraining her. Fortunately, due to the effect of the knockout drug, the woman also fell into a coma. But all of this was just a trick played by the woman. When the National Security Bureau agents let down their guard and tried to move forward to investigate, the woman took down all the special police officers who had entered. Seeing more and more enemy reinforcements arriving, the woman didn't linger in the fight. She dragged her shoulder, which had been injured in the scuffle, and jumped into the sea to escape. The reason the National Security Bureau launched an operation against the woman was that the leader had spoken to the female detective the previous day. After the female detective told the leader about the information she had obtained, multiple batches of refugees traveling through time via time machines, the leader arranged an advance meeting with the male refugee, who had revealed the news of multiple batches of refugees traveling through time. When this man met the leader, he stated that before his batch of time travelers, others had already arrived in this era. Furthermore, unlike him, those people had not come to flee disaster or war. Those people had come with a more evil plan. He told the leader that if not stopped, the plan brought by these people could even change the historical course of the entire country. But before the man could finish speaking, the leader's reply and reaction left the survivor panicked. The leader told him that he was part of the previous batch of people who had traveled back in time. After that, the survivor who had provided the clue was secretly detained by the leader. After confirming that the news of multiple batches of time travelers wouldn't leak out, the leader found his associate and told him that he believed members of the Apex organization had infiltrated this batch of time travelers. It was clear that this associate also knew the leader's plan and was aware of his identity. To prevent members of the Apex organization from sabotaging their plan, the associate decided to go and take care of the woman himself. However, this group of leaders who had traveled back in time didn't know that in addition to stating they were future people from 150 years later, who had come to escape the war, the refugees had also revealed an even more crucial clue. That is, in the future, the Apex organization had developed a virus called the mantle virus. Once a human is infected with this virus, death is inevitable. Moreover, in the later stage, the Apex organization genetically edited the virus, making it only infect ordinary people who lacked superior genes and couldn't evolve. What made the police even more terrified was that the little girl was a carrier of the virus. After collecting blood samples from the survivors for testing, they confirmed this terrifying news. After confirming it was the mantle virus, the police didn't know what decision to make. On the other side, after escaping the Security Bureau's pursuit, the woman went to a location and took out a bullet from her shoulder. However, her location was detected by technological equipment. After confirming her location, the Security Bureau dispatched special forces to surround and kill her. But when they arrived at the woman's location, they found no sign of their target. Instead, the woman had left provocative words on a mirror. The woman left her hiding place and sneaked into the woods. Her previously injured shoulder had already healed. Upon receiving this news, the leader, along with his associate, surrounded the mountain forest. Having heard their arrangements, the woman hid in a concealed spot, ready to deliver a fatal blow at any moment. While searching the mountain forest, a special forces soldier found a bloody bandage, but before he could report to his superiors, the woman pounced on him directly. She then grabbed the man by the neck, and in just a short time, the man lost consciousness. The team leader, who had not received a report from the soldier, also realized something was wrong. He led his team members to surround the scene of the incident, but the woman had already been waiting in a tree, taking down all special forces soldier. Even the most fierce elite soldier wouldn't dare to say he could defeat the woman, let alone these ordinary soldiers. Soon, the woman used a self-made shield to block the gunfire, and then took down the special forces soldiers who had come to reinforce. Even against stronger and more fierce men than herself, she showed no mercy. after taking down the last Special Forces soldier, the woman picked up the weapons left behind, and prepared to launch a one-sided slaughter. The leader was still arranging for people to search for the woman's trace, when a red dot appeared on his chest the next second, and walking towards him was his target, the woman who was believed to be a member of the Apex organization. Just as the woman was about to succeed, the leader pressed a switch in his hand. Immediately after, the woman clutched her ears in pain and rolled on the ground. This was the most fatal weakness of Apex organization members that ordinary people had discovered. They can't withstand high-frequency sound waves, because their evolution allows them to hear ultrasonic waves that normal people can't detect. These sound waves have thus become one of their fatal weaknesses. Just as the leader thought he had the upper hand, and was mocking and ridiculing the Apex organization, the woman took advantage of the pause in the sound waves, and used a tree branch to knock the remote control out of the leader's hand. The woman took down the leader. Shortly after, the woman embarked on her journey to find her daughter again, but the woman still didn't know that her daughter had been infected with the mantle virus, a virus that kills ordinary people upon contact. The little girl had been moved to an intensive care unit in the isolation area. The tiny figure lying on the large hospital bed looked especially fragile. Unlike the tragic situation with the little girl, Jude was watching fireworks on the beach with his family, but after the fireworks were set off, a loud explosion came from a distance. Jude told his son to stay there and said he would go check and be right back. When he arrived at the explosion site, he found the security bureau leader's body lying on the car's hood. There was also a cloth strip in his mouth, and the information written on it shocked Jude deeply. When he rushed back to the beach, his son had disappeared. After calming down, Jude got into his car, turned on the positioning system, and searched for the location of his son's phone. According to the location shown on the device, Jude ran red lights all the way. But on his way there, he received a call from the woman. This was exactly the clue she had left on the note. The woman wanted to exchange Jude's son for her own daughter. After stating her demand, the woman hung up the phone. When Jude arrived at the located spot, there was no sign of the woman or his son, only a phone was lying there. Having lost the location, Jude no longer had clues such as his son's whereabouts. He had to accept the woman's proposal and make a deal with her. After getting through the tough night, the next day, Jude arrived at the policewoman's guard. The place had already been taken over by the security bureau. They told Jude that his police rank disqualified him from participating in this matter. In order to save his son, Jude had to drive his car into the compound. After being stopped at gunpoint by the guards inside, the female police officer arrived soon after. When he saw the female police officer, Jude told her about the details of his deal with the woman, but the female police officer informed Jude that he had no qualification or right to take the surviving girl away. After saying that, she took Jude inside to see the little girl, who was covered in tubes and relying on medical equipment to sustain her life. Jude had no idea what to do either. Just when he was at a loss, a female expert researching the virus told him, given the girl's current condition, she would probably only have 2 days left to live. Seeing that Jude was about to break into the ICU to rescue the girl, the female expert told him, before the little girl fell unconscious, she had said that her mother could cure her. They decided to form a temporary team to go find the woman together. Later, the two of them sneaked out of the base, without the female police officer noticing. On the other side, the woman took Jude's son to a riverbank for a leisurely fishing trip. The boy looked at the woman, pointed to the fishing gear nearby, and said, "How can we fish without a fishing rod?" The woman looked at two anglers. She walked up to them and asked for their fishing rods. After a friendly conversation, the woman obtained 2 fishing rods and fishing tackle from them. The 2 anglers left supporting each other. By this time, they had become sworn brothers. The boy taught the woman how to fish. While they were fishing, Jude called and told the woman that he had picked up the little girl. The woman had no doubts, and hung up the phone after agreeing on a location with him. Later, Jude took the female expert to the agreed meeting place, and only after seeing the woman, did he tell her the truth about the little girl. The woman didn't believe it and showed signs of being about to get angry. To calm the woman down, the female expert took out photos of the little girl that she had taken. The female expert also took the opportunity to propose that she could take the little boy's place as a hostage, as she was more valuable than the boy, and that the two of them might even find a way to cure the girl. At this point, the woman said she already had the antidote, and it was her bone marrow. According to the woman, in the future, her bone marrow was the highest purity antibody against the virus. Although the female expert, based on current biomedical knowledge, couldn't believe the woman's claim, she still trusted the medical advancements of the future, so she prepared tools to assist and help the woman extract a portion of her bone marrow. But before the two could finish talking, and before the female expert was ready, she saw the woman cut open her own skin. Then, she inserted a special tool into her body and extracted the bone marrow fluid. On the other side, Jude rushed home and found his son had already returned. This filled Jude with a mix of emotions, and he also realized that the woman had never intended to harm his son. The anxiety in his heart dissipated instantly. At this moment, he received a call from the female police officer. During the call, Jude learned that the female police officer's phone was being monitored, and their call wasn't safe, so the female police officer agreed to meet him at the police station the next morning. During the call, the female police officer told Jude that she had something important to tell him. At that time, the female police officer was driving to a secret location, and the person she was going to meet was a time-traveling survivor from 150 years in the future. Not long ago, a man named Paul told the female police officer that his wife lived 150 years ago and even drew a portrait of her. This surprised the police officer. After all, Paul was from 150 years in the future, so how could his wife possibly live in the current era? In response to the female police officer's question, Paul told her that his wife was a time traveler from the previous batch who had come to this era. After receiving this information, the female police officer uploaded the portrait drawn by Paul into the system, hoping to identify Paul's wife through it, and through the system, she actually found out the woman's location and specific information. The woman was now named Eve. After obtaining the specific location, the female police officer made an appointment to meet Jude the next day, then drove to the location where Eve was. After hanging up the phone, the female police officer went to the outside of Eve's room. Seeing the woman in front of her, she confirmed that Eve matched the portrait Paul had provided, so the female police officer took out a photo of the survivor Paul, and the woman admitted that the man in the photo was her husband. Later, through their conversation, the female police officer learned that Paul, the male survivor in the photo and Eve's husband, had become mentally unstable and rambled incoherently every day. After meeting a group of heretics a few years ago, not long after that, she had never seen him again. Eve told the police officer that she had specially collected a lot of evidence and clues in order to find her husband. The female police officer was curious about these clues and wanted to take a look. Eve didn't refuse and went into the room to look for the clues. During the waiting time, the female police officer noticed in the photos on the wall that among the people in the group photos with Eve, one was exactly the leader of the security bureau. She seemed to have thought of something, but before she could grasp that fleeting thought, she was pulled back to reality by a sharp pain in her shoulder. After the gunshot rang out, the female police officer held her shoulder and fell to the ground. She stared in disbelief at Eve, who was holding a gun behind her, and didn't know why Eve would do such a thing, and she no longer had the strength to ask the question that had been on her mind. The next day, Jude went to the police station to wait for her, but waited for a long time and still didn't see her. When he called her, the system indicated that her phone was turned off. Now he was very agitated. At this moment, a junior officer under the female police officer came over to ask if Jude had seen her. Jude told him that he was also waiting for her, but the junior officer told Jude a terrifying piece of news. That is, since losing contact with Jude last night, the female police officer had been out of contact from the entire night until now. After hearing this news, Jude sensed something was wrong. Later, he used the police's internal network system to find the hotel where the female police officer had stayed before. In the empty hotel room, he obtained the female police officer's laptop and relevant materials. Jude took them back to the police station. Through analysis by the station's internal technicians, they found a research document about the security bureau leader in the female police officer's hard drive. This document revealed that 10 years ago, there had been a mysterious incident involving the sudden appearance of a group of people, and the security bureau leader was one of the people in that suddenly appearing group. On the other side, after killing the female police officer, Eve arrived outside a villa with her luggage and met the security bureau leader. But there were more than just the two of them in the room. There were also some other people waiting for her. These people were all future humans from the previous batch of time travelers, but their purpose wasn't to escape the war. Instead, it was to secretly accomplish a major task. Their goal was to prevent the establishment of the future Apex organization. Through their investigation, they learned that the reason for the establishment of the future Apex organization was a theory proposed by some experts during the current time period, and what these people intended to do was to kill all the experts. Obviously, they didn't succeed. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been a second batch of time travelers. After all the relevant experts were killed in assassinations back then, these future humans, relying on their knowledge of history, provided proactive warnings and thrived in various fields, including politics and business. But what these people didn't know was that the security bureau leader didn't carry out the assassination. When it came to the experts who proposed the Apex concepts, this led to the smooth establishment of the future Apex organization. This also triggered the incident where the second batch of refugees appeared to escape the war. To cover up the failure of his mission, the Security Bureau leader decided to silence all the refugees in the second batch. On the other side, the female expert took the mother's bone marrow and injected it into the little girl's body. With the mother's antibodies, the little girl's condition recovered quickly. Before long, the girl regained her vitality and opened her eyes. After the girl recovered, the haze of the virus threat was dispelled. The people who had come from the future were also granted a one-day special permission to go out for a walk and relax. While walking, the little girl met a mysterious person. This person gave her a postcard with a string of mysterious symbols written on the back, and the little girl carefully put the postcard away. Later, after playing with Jude and the others for a while, she asked to go to the bathroom. During her trip to the bathroom, the girl saw her mother. The mother and daughter reunited and escaped through a hole in the bathroom. But they didn't expect that Jude was waiting for them behind the bathroom. The woman thought Jude was going to take the two of them back, and was about to resort to her great strength to take her daughter away. But to her surprise, Jude took the girl's thin wrist, preparing to help her remove the positioning bracelet. This was his way of repaying the woman for not harming his son. Seeing what Jude had done, the woman said she would keep his kindness in mind. Later, she drove away with the girl. That night, the reunited mother and daughter rested happily in a hotel, relying on the superhuman physical abilities from the Apex organization. The woman heard ultrasonic waves that normal people cannot hear. Then she turned her attention to the doll the girl had taken from the camp, and found a tracker inside it. This made the woman sense that something was wrong, and she prepared to leave with her daughter. But on their way out, the woman realized they were already being followed. Accidents were still happening one after another. Just as the woman tried to speed up to take her daughter away, the car she was driving suddenly had an accident. A tire blew out. By the time the woman got out of the car with the child, the area around them had already been surrounded by special forces. At this moment, the number of special forces surrounding her had exceeded her physical limit. The woman became a captive of the military. On the other side, the next day during the day, the police found the female police officer's body in the woods. After a thorough search, the female police officer's gun was missing, so the police gathered all the refugees in the camp and searched their rooms. They found the corresponding service pistol in a man's room, and this man was none other than Paul. Before the man was taken away by the police, Jude gave his contact information to him, as he knew the man was innocent. According to his estimation, 10 days had passed since the female police officer lost contact, yet her body was found today. There must be secrets he didn't know about behind this. After parting ways with Jude, Paul was taken to the Security Bureau's interrogation room, and the person waiting for him was his own wife. Eve first comforted her husband, and then said that their plan was a great plan that could change the lives of ordinary people in the future. After Eve told Paul that she hoped he could make corresponding sacrifices for this great cause, she handed him a manuscript and asked him to read it as written, while she recorded the process nearby. After finishing all this, Eve left with the materials, satisfied. On the other side, Jude also made progress. He found the recognized leader of the survivors. The leader told Jude that she was the inventor of the time machine, and that she had been in charge of arranging time travel for 2 batches of people. It was only after learning that the first batch of time travelers had become uncontrollable that she arranged for the second batch to travel through time. The leader also told Jude the identities of the Public Security Bureau leader and Eve. As for Paul, once Eve was out of sight, he called Jude and repeated the content of the manuscript his wife had given him. The content of the manuscript was to label many survivors in the camp as heretics, and to claim that they were preparing to carry out terrorist attacks, to threaten the country's security and governing power. Paul guessed that they did this so that the Security Bureau leader would have sufficient reasons to get rid of the survivors, who knew the secrets of the future, thereby achieving the goal of eliminating all refugees in the second batch. After saying all this, Paul hung up the phone, but he had exposed himself to Eve. She found that her husband had turned to the opposite side, and she killed him. On the surface, the leader, who invoked national interests, and used executing terrorists to safeguard national security as an excuse, was in the position of an absolute winner. Unfortunately, Jude had already arranged for people to take action. They first caused a disturbance outside the base, then passed the intelligence inside. Through the chain of information transmission, the rescue plan was set in motion. Later, the Security Bureau leader announced at the base that they recognized the legal identities of these people in the current reality, declared that they could gain freedom, and added that the government had prepared brand new identities for them. However, to ensure they wouldn't be infected by viruses from 100 years ago, they must be vaccinated. It was obvious that what they brought wasn't a vaccine, but a deadly poison. Just then, Rodrigo drove his car and forced his way into the camp. Although he was quickly detained by the security bureau, they had already achieved their goal. The woman hiding under the car sneaked in successfully. They infiltrated the base and then took down the guards. When the security bureau leader came out, the guards outside had already been wiped out. Realizing something was wrong, the security bureau leader ordered his subordinates to search all rooms in the camp. While they were searching, Jude had already told his men to gather the survivors inside a single room, and lied to the security bureau leader that no survivors had been found. After they left, Jude's men first cut off the power supply in the base, then tore through the electric fence to free the survivors from the hut. It was at this moment that the woman saw her daughter again. The fully recovered girl hugged her mother. Just as everyone was preparing to evacuate, the security bureau's men repaired the power circuit, and the electric fence was reactivated in an instant. The last girl to evacuate got stuck in the electric fence. Fortunately, the woman forcibly knocked the girl away, saving her life. From this point on, the people trapped in the camp gained their freedom. However, to survive in the real world, they still needed brand new identities, and those identities were soon to arrive. Shortly after gaining freedom, Jude gave them an envelope. Inside was the key to their survival in this new era. A new identity, a legal one that would allow them to gain a foothold in this time period. Surprisingly, it was the security bureau director who had arranged all this. It turned out that after this incident, the security bureau leader no longer wanted to carry out senseless killings of his fellow people from the future, so he decided to play his final role by giving those compatriots identities that would allow them to integrate into the real world. This was also the most correct choice he had ever made. The Crossing is an American sci-fi spy drama that aired in 2018. This show cleverly combines the sci-fi setting of parallel universes with political thriller elements from the Cold War era, creating a thought-provoking narrative world. The most fascinating aspect of the drama is that it goes beyond a mere sci-fi setting and delves deeply into philosophical themes such as identity, self-awareness, and the essence of humanity. The core question raised in the show is, how would you react when facing an alternative self who is fully skilled and outperforms you in every aspect? This setting fulfills a psychological desire that humans have long sought to realize: how to converse with oneself. It is no coincidence that The Crossing is set in Berlin. Berlin during the Cold War was an outpost of sharp confrontation between the capitalist and socialist blocs, and 1987, the year when The Crossing was established, was a period of upheaval marked by the revolutions of 1989 in Eastern Europe, and changes within the Soviet bloc. In the show, the top authorities of the two worlds monopolize secrets and hold absolute rule. The public is confined to their respective worlds by lies. Intelligence agencies are everywhere, and power struggles between high-level factions are constant. This political atmosphere draws inspiration from the Soviet system. During the Cold War, this setting allows The Crossing to transcend mere sci-fi entertainment and become a political allegory, as critics have pointed out. Except for the fictional sci-fi setting of copying and pasting the existing world, all other elements reflect the real world. All historical tides and political details can evoke nostalgic resonance through this reflection. The production quality of the drama is top tier. Berlin's urban landscape is perfectly captured, creating a cold and mysterious atmosphere. Unlike many sci-fi shows, The Crossing avoids over-reliance on special effects. Instead, it drives the plot through a solid script and the actors' performances. The sci-fi elements in the show are handled quite restrainedly, serving more as story background rather than visual spectacles. What is most shocking about The Crossing is perhaps not its sci-fi setting, but its exploration of the essence of humanity. Multiple personalities can be portrayed through parallel worlds today, and revived through murder cases tomorrow. Ultimately, this is the result of human alienation since the advent of modern industrial society. This show makes us think, if we encounter ourselves in the real world, what choices would we make? This fear does not come from the objective world, but from our own psychological space. Although The Crossing only has 2 short seasons, the reflections it leaves behind go far beyond those of ordinary sci-fi dramas. For viewers who enjoy mind-bending plots, political metaphors, and in-depth explorations of humanity, this show is definitely worth watching. As one critic put it, it's no exaggeration to say it was the new Westworld of that year.